Okay. It's a Friday. I'm working from home. It's nice and quiet in here. There's been a little bit happening here this week. Yesterday, I went for my 2 week post operative appointment to follow up on my surgery on my knee. And I was glad I had the appointment set. The reason being, we had some rain this week. And I really felt a lot of pressure in the knee. Um, at one point, I have a yoga mat in my office. I'd actually lay down on the floor and put my leg up on the table in my office just to try to relieve the pressure that I was feeling in the knee. So, anyway, I went to this appointment and I saw the physician's assistant and I was explaining the situation to him. And he said, "Well, you do have a lot of liquid. You have a lot of fluid in that knee." And he's like, "There's two. We can either drain it out with a needle, or we can just let your body work on it and reabsorb that fluid." So I thought about it, and I was like, "Well, it probably would be good to have it drained. I mean, I'd probably feel like instant relief, and be able to bend it without feeling the pressure of the fluid." Boy, I wasn't ready. Now I had a cortisone shot in that knee a few months back that didn't really help me, but just the process of the shot, knowing it was going into the knee and all that, it really wasn't that bad. I mean, you could feel the pressure and everything, but this guy yesterday, I don't know, he sprayed some anesthetic spray and then he gave me a quick shot and he said, "Okay, this is the numbing shot." And then 2 seconds later, he jammed in the aspiration needle, which is like 3 inches, long. And he went deep into my knee. I mean, I guess he was under the kneecap. I don't know where he was, but I was taken aback at how painful that was. At one point, I actually, went, ah, like I couldn't believe how painful it was. It was like freaking medieval. And, he apologized about it. He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry I hurt you, but the damage was done." I just couldn't believe it. If I had it to do over again, I don't think I would have allowed him to do that, just because the pain was just. I mean, it wasn't long, and he pulled out about, I think, 30 cc's of fluid. I took a picture of it because it was so horrific. It looked like fruit punch. He said it was synovial fluid. But that was interesting. And I didn't go to work yesterday. After that was done, I came home, laid down, and tried to block it out of my memory. I was literally thinking, I just need to block this out of my memory. I don't even want to think about this. And so I just napped. I slept fine last night, but I did wake up with a headache. And I think part of that is because I've just been eating absolute bullcrap food lately. Um, a lot of sugar, a lot of fat. It's time to get back into some kind of a routine, especially with Bonnaroo being less than a month away. It's going to be a lot of walking. I'm just hopeful that all this with the knee ends up making it less problematic while we're there. Sure has been a time. We've got all the tickets, so I don't even know. I don't know. Because of the family, the sense of isolation that I've been dealing with, and the sense almost that my family are like an enemy to me. Um, I don't even know if I'm looking forward to Bonnaroo. I talked with Dr. Sharp last night about some of that, some of the stuff that happened last week with my son and daughter. My daughter telling me I'm too strict. You know, my son. Well, I really haven't had a conversation with him since then, since Sunday, when that whole blow up happened. But I was telling Dr. Sharp about the whole thing, and to some degree, and I was, being honest about the fact that it kind of feels like some of what our kids are expressing, maybe they learned from their mother, um, because she has pretty consistently made me feel like what I say doesn't really matter or can be ignored. And I think the kids know that me and their mother are not always on the same team. In fact, we're not usually on the same team. It doesn't feel that way in terms of how it feels. And Dr. Shark challenged me. I was explaining that I have almost not almost, but a legit physiological response in moments like that. And it's different than it was years ago. Years ago, I kind of felt like I had more patience. I felt like I had more of a tolerance for stupidity when I heard it, and I could kind of like explain things and maybe stay a little bit calmer. I don't know if this is true or not, but it seems like as I've gotten older, especially with feeling like I've lost my children, my tolerance level just seems to, like, I go from trying to have a conversation to, once I feel like I'm trying to defend myself from an attack, to my heart pounds, I feel a lump in my throat, my hands shake, I can't sit down, I jump up, and so I'm triggered. And I don't know if that's fight or flight. It is kind of similar and reminiscent of when I was a kid and I'd wake up in the middle of the night and my parents would be fighting. I'd wake up from sleep and my parents would be throwing furniture and cussing at each other. And just as a kid, that feeling you get when, it's hard to describe that feeling, but I guess it is like a fight or flight response. And that's kind of what I've been feeling here when people really argue with me and accuse me. And he was challenging me to not in a sense react when they push the buttons, because for them that's kind of a W. It's kind of a win. If I react and lose my cool and storm off, then they got what they wanted, or they got a reaction. And he said it was kind of funny. He said, "You're usually the smartest person in the room. I'd like to see you outwitting them," which I thought was a funny way to say it. And I can understand all that, but at the same time, it's hard for me to imagine not letting, being able to stay calm when I feel like, okay, I'm being attacked. These people don't love me. They don't want me around. They're going to grow up and hate me anyway and not talk to me like my first son does. And those are kind of the things that go through my head. And something to work on. I mean, I told him how I worry about my son, my second son, because he doesn't talk about things until he explodes. He's the only one of my children that throws things or punches people, bullies his brother every day, acts out physically when he's angry. So he's not handling his emotions well, and never has since he was very young, since he was a toddler. So it's kind of like, a challenge to know what to do. I don't think running away and watching TV is the best response, but I'm just so tired of feeling like, like for example, on Mother's Day, this Sunday that this blow up happened, it was important to me that my wife felt honored by the kids on Mother's Day. So like I went out of my way to make sure they knew it was Mother's Day. and to arrange all of us going to church and, um, things like that. And I know that if one of my kids stood up against their mother and said, well, it's your fault I'm the way I am, um, or physically touched, attacked her or did anything like that, I know that I would come out the woodwork for her and let that kid know you're not going to do that. Don't talk to your mother that way. I'll hurt you, or you will be living on your own. And that sort of reaction, so like, it's not found in Jessica. When Jessica hears the kids pushing back on me or disrespecting me, she doesn't come out swinging for me. You know, she tries to play both sides, and maybe I'm not even saying this is wrong. It's just that it shows the the lack of weight, you know, that I seem to carry in her mind, or that I seem to be problematic in her mind. And it just comes out. I mean, like when she talks about me to Dr. Sharp, when she talks about me to other people, she can't hide the fact that she thinks of me disdainfully and views me as problematic. And so, how are you supposed to have a relationship that's got the good feelings if the other party, views you as a problem? I don't know. That's something that's hard for me to know what to do with and know how to understand how I should respond to it. It seems like anytime that I try to express my needs or wants or desires or whatever, um, she takes it as a criticism, like she blows it out of proportion and takes it as a criticism against her. Um, Instead of listening to what I'm saying. So she'll try to change her traditionally. She's tried to change the story. So the reason that when I was younger, you know, and I wanted sex with her, the reason I couldn't have it in her mind was because I had seen pornography before. I mean, my wife, she ruined our sex life. She ruined it. She absolutely ruined it because she made me feel shame for things that were legitimate, that were things that God wanted for me. And because she didn't want to face the own challenge to herself and to her own thinking. So she tried to make me conform to what she wanted, which I don't even know. My wife spent most of our marriage in fantasy land thinking that marriage had to be a certain way, or if I had a drink once in a while, I was a reprobate, that I was scary and mean and awful and sinful, and if I would just become whatever was in her head, then she could feel safe. And Dr. Sharp told her early on, and several other people that knew us both told her early on, well, you could be married to the most perfect man in the world and you'd still be having these issues because it's not exterior. It's not about Steve. But I don't know if she really believes that even today. I don't think she believes that. I don't get the feeling that people like me in my household. Uh, and what it seemed like Dr. Sharp was saying is I need to stop letting that bother me. And I don't know practically how you do that unless you essentially wall yourself in, you know? Okay, well, I'm having these huge reactions that are bothering me. They don't seem to bother other people. People want to criticize me. They don't want to. They don't want to hear. They don't want my leadership They don't want my they don't want to hear my counsel. They don't want to hear they definitely don't want me as a man in the house. Then what else can I do but withdraw? Either that or just have constant war, which I'm just not interested in. Sometimes I wonder, I've been watching these videos and there's like this trend. A lot of American men are going outside the country to go to Asia um, or Europe, trying to find, like Russian women or Ukrainians, people from more traditional roles, people from more conservative cultures and more traditional roles, because women in America seem to be so full of shit and so full of themselves and their unrealistic expectations and their entitlement and their attitudes that they're not seen as wife material by a lot of men. They're just not seen as um, someone you want to spend your whole life with. And I made my oldest son very upset when told him that I had regretted marrying his mother. That was just more than he could handle. I was trying to tell him not to marry the girl he married, which maybe was overstepping my bounds, but I figured I got to try to warn this guy about this. But, sometimes I do wonder, and it's not good to have what if scenarios in our head, but I do wonder sometimes, like, what would it have been like to have, to be with a lady who really did have it in mind, to be a partner and a support and actually be a helper, like the scripture says, to actually help me in my mission in life instead of opposing it and instead of trying to change me. And I don't know, I'm sure people have challenges to marriage all over the world. I don't have any fantasies that it's better everywhere, but some things, I was trying to explain this to my daughter, who is not a believer, that the more we get away from God's principles, the worse our life gets, the worse our culture gets, and we don't, you know. So it's not a grass is greener thing, but in some places the grass is greener because people, whether they know it or not, are following creative principles of God that God has made for relationships and for societies. You know, it's possible that someone that doesn't know God nevertheless fulfills his law by walking in love and by walking in the principles that God has made. But I suppose that's a lot of conjecture. I'm just still here trying to figure out what to do with life. So it's a work from home day. I'm going to go actually do some work. And supposedly my son's coming to visit from Brunswick County to this evening or tomorrow. I don't know what. I guess that's all the news there is for now.